This is the Capitol Rundown.
This is something President Trump campaigned on. The American people have been waiting for such a time as this.
Today I announced also that I'll be running for governor of Michigan.
The policies of the administration and the federal government, firstly, violate the law, and secondly, inflict specific concrete harm or injury to the state of Michigan.
It's all straight ahead. The Capitol Rundown starts now.
Good morning and thanks for joining us. I'm Siobhan Klepfer. During a long day of events last Monday in Washington and with millions around the country and globe watching, President Donald Trump was sworn into office at the U.S. Capitol. Our D.C. correspondent Raquel Martin has more from the ceremony.
Here I am, the American people have spoken.
From twice impeached to now twice inaugurated.
The golden age of America begins right now.
Monday, President Donald Trump took an oath of office, becoming the 47th President of the United States.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
An arena filled with supporters gave President Trump a raucous reception. The parade moved indoors because of the bitter cold in the nation's capital today.
It's a celebration of a big win.
The peaceful transfer of power started at the White House and concluded in the Capitol Rotunda.
And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free.
In his inaugural address, President Trump announced immediate plans to unleash American energy, deport millions of what he calls illegal criminal aliens, disband diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and impose tariffs.
Revoking nearly 80 destructive, radical executive actions of the previous administration, they'll all be null and void.
President Trump's number 2, Vice President J.D. Vance, was also sworn in. Following the ceremony, the two men watched as Biden departed Washington, leaving behind nearly 50 years of service.
Well, politicians and others here in Michigan reacted to President Trump's return to the White House. Governor Gretchen Whitmer followed a proclamation issued by the president to raise flags to full staff in his honor. They were at half staff to mark the passing of former President Jimmy Carter for a 30-day period, which resumed on Tuesday. On Monday, Governor Whitmer issued a statement saying, in part, "I want to congratulate President Trump as he begins his second term, and I look forward to getting to work on the priorities we share." Republican State Representative Matt Hall, who became Speaker when his party retook control of the House this month, said he looks forward to working with President Trump to deliver results for the state. Coming up, we'll tell you the latest person to announce a run to be Michigan's next governor and the first Democrat in the race. But first, President Trump issued lots of executive orders during his first week in office, and Michigan's Attorney General helped put the brakes on at least one of them. That and much more when the Capitol Rundown returns. As President Trump takes control of the federal government, he wasted no time getting to work on his agenda. Our Washington correspondent Trevor Shirley has more.
Within hours of President Donald Trump taking office, nearly everyone convicted of January 6th related crimes had their records wiped clean.
So this is a big one.
We hope they come out tonight, frankly.
14 others, including at least one person convicted for seditious conspiracy, had their sentences commuted. The president suggesting more pardons could be coming.
We're looking at different things, but the commutations would be the ones that we'll take a look, and maybe it'll stay that way, or it'll go to, full pardon.
President Trump also signing dozens of other executive orders during ceremonies at the Capital One Arena and the White House.
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so.
The president cracking down on illegal immigration by reinstating his Remain in Mexico policy, where asylum seekers have to stay in Mexico until their case is heard.
As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do.
One order ending birthright citizenship is already facing legal challenge as unconstitutional. Another order declaring a national emergency at the southern border.
All over the world, they're emptying their prisons into our country. They're emptying their mental institutions into our country. It stops as of 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Other executive actions included ordering federal workers back to the office full time, as well as ending government DEI hiring practices. Another says the U.S. government will only recognize two genders.
The dawn of the golden age of America. That's what it's going to be. We're bringing it back.
Well, on Thursday, a U.S. district judge temporarily blocked President Trump's executive order denying birthright citizenship. He called it blatantly unconstitutional during the first hearing in a multi-state effort challenging that order that included Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. The lawsuit argued President Trump's initiative violates the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The new executive order by President Trump would reverse that position and only apply to newly born children of undocumented immigrants.
The policies of the administration and the federal government, firstly, violate the law, and secondly, inflict specific concrete harm or injury to the state of Michigan or her residents. I am bound by the oath of my office to take action.
The judge scheduled a hearing on February 6th to decide whether to block it long-term as the case proceeds. Another week, another Michigan politician has announced a run to be the next governor. Our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic has the details.
He has run in 34 marathons over the years, and now she launches the most challenging political run of her life. 47-year-old Democrat Jocelyn Benson wants this.
Today I announced also that I'll be running for governor of Michigan.
In her head, Jocelyn Benson has been running for governor for years, and now she is the first Democrat in the hunt. First, she wants the government to be more efficient and transparent, and she wants to try this for citizens if they elect her.
Trying to figure out how to save our residents time, save them money, and make all of our state agencies work efficiently and effectively.
One way to help consumers is to give them a tax cut from the state government. And while many Republicans traditionally sign the so-called no-tax pledge, if elected, I'll not raise your taxes, Secretary Benson was not ready to sign it or not sign it.
I'll consider it and we'll look into it, and I'll let you know our answer as we move forward into the campaign. Again, taking pledges at this moment may not be the right way to go in that direction.
After the scrum, she did add that the no-tax pledge, quote, appeared gimmicky, and she just wanted to be the best governor she could be. On another front, Ms. Benson is concerned about the rhetoric coming out of the White House and the new president, and she is concerned about deportations. But if the president wants the Michigan State Police to help to deport illegals, would she agree?
And for me is that if someone tries to come to take away the rights and freedoms of our residents, I'll be there to stand in the way.
So if he asked for the state police, she would say no.
We'll have to, I don't want to go into too many hypotheticals on that.
Well, it's not a hypothetical.
Certainly, it depends on, again, the where and the why and the what and all of those specifics.
Republicans unilaterally denounced her candidacy, claiming that she was an inefficient Secretary of State. She just laughed that off, and now she begins that marathon run for governor. It will end in 652 days. You're few in Lansing. Tim Skubic.
Well, coming up later, the Arab American vote played a role in Michigan's status as a swing state. Now that President Trump is in office, where do voters stand? And up next, a new bill cracking down on immigrants is being sent to President Trump's desk. That and much more coming up. Welcome back. President Trump will soon sign his first bill into law of his new term, the Laken-Riley Act. Our Washington correspondent Maddie Biertemple reports on what this means for the nation.
After signing a series of executive orders this week
To stop the invasion of our borders.
the White House says President Trump is following through on plans to curb illegal immigration. The Defense Department is now sending 1,500 troops to the southern border.
This is something President Trump campaigned on. The American people have been waiting for such a time as this.
Republicans in Congress praised the president.
He's using his executive authority because desperate times call for desperate measures.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says Congress and the White House are on the same page.
What he's doing is kickstarting what will ultimately be our legislative agenda.
Part of that agenda, Republicans say, is already in motion.
The bill passed. We're going to send to President Trump's desk his very first bill to sign into law.
The Laken-Riley Act requires federal officials to detain illegal immigrants accused of theft. 46 House Democrats voted for it, but those against it, like Texas Democrat Greg Casar, say many Republican measures to crack down on illegal immigration
don't do anything to make people safer or to fix our immigration system.
And as for Michigan's delegation to Capitol Hill, both Democratic Senators Elissa Slotkin and Gary Peters joined with the GOP to put the Laken-Riley Act across the finish line. Coming up next on The Rundown, our Capitol correspondent will be back with Tim's take on all things Michigan politics, including an inside look at the announcement from Jocelyn Benson. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Jocelyn Benson is now running for governor, and Michigan's minimum wage law is far from settled. The Rundown's Jorma Duran got the inside scoop from Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic.
It's time to get updated politically here in the state of Michigan, and nobody better than this guy right here, Tim Skubic, to help us out. Tim, the race for governor just increased by one, and it's the first Democrat in the running, with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson announcing. But will she be seen as a continuation of Governor Whitmer's administration? And if so, does that help or hinder her?
Well, she's not running as a protege of Governor Whitmer. Let's make that very clear. Okay. Ms. Benson is her own self, and she's got her own gig. But Ms. Benson actually, in her head, she has been running for governor for a number of years. Yeah. She's really driven. She really wants this. And she is the first Democrat in that has its advantages. First of all, she's not going to scare anybody out because she's entering the race. That's simply not going to happen. Secondly, she gets a head start on fundraising, and she's already done a pretty good job on that. And she picked up the endorsement of Emily's List, which is the group that endorses female candidates for office. And so she's out there doing what you do, trying to get this thing done. She's a marathon runner, Jorma. She's been in 34 marathons. Wow. She's now in the longest marathon of her political life, and this race will not end for another 650 days. Let's set our watch for that date, eh?
Wow. Well, Tim, the GOP-led House passes House Bill 4001 and 4002 that would retain the tipped wage system and would also make small businesses exempt from certain sick time reforms. Now it's with the democratically controlled state Senate. So the question is, do these bills go anywhere?
The answer, I think, is in the long or short term is yes. There is a supposed deadline of February 21st to get this done. I think that's a little wishy-washy. I think they probably have some leeway on that one way or the other. But the House did make movement. They presented a plan to the Senate, which will likely take it up here in the next couple of weeks. And basically, the tip workers have been crying to lawmakers, look, leave our current tip system in place, because if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. And then you have the unions on the other side who were telling Democrats, don't you all vote for this because it's a bad bill for our people because we want to raise the minimum wage. So 9 Democrats did bolt and did join the Republicans to send this thing over to the Senate, where Mr. Hertel, who's the state senator from Macomb County, basically thinks they can work this thing out.
Coming up next, we are checking in with a group of Michigan voters. We're going to tell you what Arab Americans in Dearborn are saying about what they expect from a Trump presidency. Stay tuned. Welcome back. President Donald Trump is back in the White House for another term, in large part because he won the votes of many groups who voted for Joe Biden in 2020. As Mark Strassman reports, some Arab Americans are watching eagerly and in some cases anxiously as Mr. Trump's second term gets underway.
On the edge of Detroit, Dearborn, Michigan, is where the Middle East meets the Midwest. More than half of residents are Arab American.
Predominantly, I'd say Lebanese, Yemeni, Iraqi, some Syrian, some Afghanistan.
Realtor Ali Al-Farajala, Baghdad-born, sells them a dream about America.
We understand our identity. We don't have to elaborate. We don't have to explain ourselves to anybody.
Al-Farajala usually votes Democrat. Not last November, not for president.
If 50,000, Palestinians under the rubble, dead, is not enough to sway me away from the Democratic Party, I don't know what is.
In Wayne County, home to Dearborn and Detroit, nearly 8% of the population is Arab American, the highest percentage in the country. Up and down last November's ballot, the majority voted Democrat, except at the top of the ticket. Donald Trump came to Dearborn looking for votes. It worked. He won the city and took Michigan, a startling reversal for Democrats.
The voters here were deeply, deeply unimpressed with Kamala Harris and appalled by the Biden administration.
Diana Abouali is the director of the Arab American National Museum. She says this is how angry Dearborn was at the Biden-Harris White House, mostly over its support for Israel in Gaza. This community voted for Donald Trump despite the president's past talk about a Muslim ban.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
And worries about his proposal to deport millions of immigrants.
For some reason, they felt that Trump was the candidate for them.
He proposes a Muslim ban.
Yep.
He claims that after 9/11, that Arab Americans in New Jersey were celebrating. He's talking about mass deportation of millions of immigrants.
Yep.
How do Arab Americans hear all that from him and still say, that's my guy?
Like most Americans, Arab Americans have very short-term memories.
Amr Zaur is a Palestinian stand-up comedian. He refused to vote for Kamala Harris.
Did you vote angrily? Yes. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The most important thing was them losing so that we could make our presence known.
So important, Zaur says whatever comes next in the new Trump era is worth the risk.
We get it. We understand. Anyone who has this illusion that Donald Trump is going to bring anything good for the specific interest of our community, I think is lying to themselves.
While Ali Al-Farajala also sees the risk another Trump presidency may pose, he's got hope.
I have a house here. I have business. I'm paying taxes. Am I going to get deported?
Hope that the American dream he sells is the same one his community now gets to keep. Mark Strassman in Dearborn, Michigan.
If you're interested in getting more political news from Michigan and Washington, we've got just the thing for you. You can sign up for our Capitol Rundown newsletter. It's just one email each week, and you can get it by pointing your cell phone camera at the screen right now. This will take you to the sign-up page, or you can head to WLNS.com/newsletter. And that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for watching the Capitol Rundown. We will see you all again right here next week.